All right, welcome to Deal Lab, everybody. I've got a group of people with me today that did a deal, 60 units out in Texas. The raise was approximately $2.5 million. The purchase price was, let's put on my glasses for this one, was 6.625. So we're going to go step, and they created a team of 6 people to take this deal down. We're going to talk about how they created that team. We're going to talk about the roles that they play. We're going to talk about how they got that deal. How they got that raise for that particular deal, and what were the strange aspects of this particular deal, because every deal has some strange aspects. But before we get into it, we are going to do Mindset Minute. And I heard this really interesting thing. A lot of you guys know that I got on TikTok recently, and I really like it because I forgot that book. I get a lot of referrals for different books. I get a lot of referrals for working out, for nutrients, and it's not just dancing. But I have started to learn how to do the shuffle dance, I must admit. I'm learning it with my kids, so that's been a lot of fun. But this happened to come up. This woman came up for like a 30-second thing, and I thought, wow, that's really, really interesting. And she said, "What happens if you live every day of your life right now and you die? No, what happens if you live every day the way you're living right now, and then you die, and you sit with God, and on the wall he starts displaying images, and he says, 'This is what you were supposed to be. I couldn't do it for you. You had to do it for yourself. And I know I sent you plenty of opportunities. What happened?'" So you might be thinking, somebody listening to this might be thinking, "What are you talking about? I'm killing it down here," which is great. You know, that's true. That is awesome, because there's a lot of people in our community that are killing it. And then there are some people that are thinking, damn, how do I get off my ass and get myself moving and take action and take advantage of opportunities? And that's what I want to talk about. And the way you start to change your success, the success that you have in life, whether it be in relationships, whether it be in business, whether it be in health, or whatever it is you want to change, is what you start feeding yourself, what you feed your mind. All right. And I know for me, I was 28 years old and I had lived a crazy life and had difficulties when I was younger. I switched over to drugs and booze to self-medicate myself. And I was in that rock and roll band for 7 or 8 years. And when I started feeding myself, the first thing I fed myself was Earl Nightingale's Lead the Field. And I thought, wow, that's really true. That would be awesome. You know, if I could just feed myself good stuff on a regular basis, my life would change. And if I took action on that stuff, and I did. And that's what it's all about. How to change. If you're not happy with the way you are right now, the way you change that is you start feeding yourself different things, and you start taking action on the things that you feed yourself. You don't have to take a drastic action. I mean, I like to feed myself books because I'm an avid reader. I also listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of information online. I listen to Wayne Dyer all the time, who's awesome. I still listen to Earl Nightingale. There's this book called Tiny Habits. That's a really good book. It was actually referred to me from a friend. And it all talks about how you just do little things. If you just change little things, not big things. You know, people, they want to lose weight, so they go on this big diet. It lasts for maybe a week or so, but because the change was so big, they couldn't maintain it. But if you take little changes and you take little changes on a regular basis, then you'll start seeing big changes in a very short period of time. So first thing, if you want to understand that, get that book, Tiny Habits. The second thing is, if you really want to understand your mind, there's a book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind, written in 2007. But that will help you to understand how your mind works, the two sides of your mind, the conscious and the unconscious, and how you can actually talk into your subconscious. And your subconscious has the ability to go, it's clairvoyant. It has the ability to go all around the world and get the information that you need in order to reach the goal that you want, as long as you affirm that that's what you want. And the problem that a lot of people have in life is they feed their subconscious mind negative things from their conscious mind. So therefore, the subconscious mind goes after negative stuff. But when you learn how to feed your subconscious mind positive things and to go after the things that you really want in life, that's when you start making a change. And if you want to learn how to do that, read that book. It's probably one of the most powerful books I've ever read. The Power of the Subconscious Mind. The author's last name is Murphy. So if you do that and you take small steps, you will be happier, you will be healthier, and you will be wealthier. Simple as that. All right, so let's go into this deal, this 60-unit deal in Fort Worth, Texas, I believe. We got Christy, Mike, Chip, and Jeannie here. So I see Christy in front of me. So Christy, why don't you start talking? Well, why don't you tell us how all of you, there's 4 out of the 6 of the team. Why don't you tell me how the 6 of you got together?
Jeannie, do you want to go take that on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Jeannie, go right ahead.
Okay, well, I think Christy's asking me to do that because I was kind of the kingpin that pulled it all together. So we actually met Mike and Christy through a different education group. And then it was Mike who had gotten familiar with our eMentor probably about a year before we hooked up with Mike and Christy. And ultimately, we decided this other education group was not providing mentoring and coaching. And though we were really smart and had learned how to do all the stuff, we did not have mentoring and coaching. And we felt as a group, the 4 of us, that we really did need to search out that piece of the puzzle. And that's when Mike led us to you, and the rest is history. But we did group up, back to your original question, through networking and through education.
How did you guys decide to form a team? A 6-person team is pretty large. Now, Jeannie and Chip, you guys look like you're a couple, yes?
Yeah.
I don't want to assume that because you never know these days. You know, people are swingers and all types of different relationships.
Yeah.
But you look like a couple, yes?
We are.
All right. So then I know Mike, and then so Mike comes into the picture. Christy, like, did 2 of you come together and then another one came in the group and another one, or how did you choose people to become part of this partnership?
You know, we actually, Chip and I had actually partnered up with a different couple who's no longer in the group, and 6 of us came together. So Chip and I have been through 3 different education groups, and Grand Finale is our eMentor. So our first education group, we met this first couple, had seemed to have similar goals, kind of on the same piece of the path, and we partnered up with them. And then later, Chip and I met Mike and Christy at the second education group, and they seemed to be just a good fit in terms of personality and how we got along. And so the 6 of us then teamed up. Couple number 1 ended up bowing out, but Mike and Christy, Chip and I kept going forward and meeting every week on Zoom calls. We live about an hour apart in California, but we were meeting every week on Zoom calls. And then ultimately, as we actually got into this deal, what we really realized is that we really needed boots on the ground. We're in California and this property is in Texas. So Chip and I, through networking, again, through a different education group number 2, had met this other couple and pulled them into the team.
And those are the 2 that aren't here? What are their names?
Jig and 𝒍𝒂𝒓 Patel.
Okay, excellent. So Mike, tell me the roles that everybody plays in such a large group. Who's playing what roles?
Yeah, so it came together. It's funny how you end up finding your own lane here. But Jeannie found the deal in Fort Worth. She's been doing broker calls, and it was inspirational getting that deal. Then it went to the underwriting. Chip underwrote it. I underwrote it. Christy helped into the marketing aspect of it, put together the.
When you guys did your underwriting of the deal, what differences did you have in the underwriting, if any? Usually there are when 2 people do underwriting.
Say it again. Well, I'm sorry. What was the
usually question? When 2 people do it, like one person does the underwriting, then another person does the underwriting. What were the differences, if any, in the underwriting? Did one person catch some things that they didn't understand and turned out to be something that you really needed to look into, or did you both come up with the same? This is a great deal. Let's go forward.
No, I mean, Chip pretty much gave the first crack at it, and then for me, I was pretty much reviewing what he had done already. I think that was I'm not sure if we both underwrote at the same time, but we also brought in our sponsor quickly, and our sponsor really was the master underwriter, and so she, was able to, I mean, you underwrite it 14 different ways, right? You can't underwrite it too many times.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we've got the underwriters, we've got the deal finders. Christy, what's your role?
I'm helping out with the marketing, doing the property package. I also did a little bit of fundraising and did some market comps in the area just to see what other apartments were, what the rents were for the other apartments. And one story, one little tidbit about this area, which I really love, is that when I was a child, I visited my grandmother who lived almost a mile away from this property. So I already have visited the property as a child every summer and Christmas. So I already knew that it was a well-established area with old money. So I was really excited when Jeannie presented this property to us.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Jeannie, this broker that brought you this deal, how long had you been cultivating that relationship before you got this deal?
About a year.
About a year. What type of commonality did you have with the broker, or do you have with the broker?
You know, one thing that we did, which probably stands out from what most out-of-state investors do, is that Chip and I took a 5-week driving trip from California to Texas, took our own vehicle, and we spent 2 weeks in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and got to know the brokers, visiting properties. And a little secret that I'm going to tell people. Should I tell them?
Yeah, you can tell them.
Okay.
It's okay.
So we live in the wine country in Sonoma, and we brought with us in our minivan 6 cases of wine.
Oh, wow. Now, don't tell me you drank them all before you got to Texas.
We did not. But as we're meeting with the brokers, you know, they're meeting a lot of people. And as we're meeting with the brokers, at the end of the meeting, I would say, now I have one more question for you. And they would look at me like, yeah. And I would say, do you like Cabernet, Pinot, or Chardonnay? And it turns out Texans usually like Cabernet. So we ran out of the Cabernet really quickly and ended up driving home with Chardonnay. But their eyes would light up. I mean, not just the broker for this deal, but some of the brokers that I hadn't made any kind of relationship with because I hadn't talked to them yet. We went down into San Antonio and Austin, and I hadn't really talked to those brokers very much. It went from being this very business-like tour of the property to, oh my gosh, nobody's ever brought me a bottle of wine before. So I'm letting out a big secret here.
That's awesome. That's really, really smart. I can share another secret too, of another client student that, well, he reads through all the different commercial real estate periodicals. And whenever there is an article written by a broker, he sends the broker a note saying, hey, I really enjoyed your article, especially these points about, and he lists off a couple of points. And then he said, I hope, and then he would say, and then he would send brownies. And I hope you enjoy these brownies. He didn't cook them, he got them from this company. Hope you enjoy these brownies. And it really, really worked. He got into so many more broker relationships because of that. Yeah. So that's really smart, you guys. That was a good thing to do. All right, so it's 60 units. What's that?
One of the challenges that I have in terms of creating broker relationships is these brokers are all like, could be my children. They are, you know, I'm older and they're younger. And I'm not into sports, and they're mostly into sports. So something like wine turned out that was a commonality.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. All right, so it was on the, what did it go onto the market for? I see you bought it for 6.625.
Right.
And now, you know, I'm gonna switch over to Mike. Mike, I saw that you bought it for 6.625. What was it on the market for?
It was on the market for, I believe, 6 million. That correct?
6 million?
Yeah.
How did you end up paying another 250,000 for it?
I'm
or
sorry.
Wait a minute.
It was 6.
Yeah, 625,000.
We came back and, you know, we went back and forth on this property. We got into best and final. It got a pretty aggressive amount of offers onto the property, and we had to get aggressive at buying it.
Oh, wow. So that price got driven up from 6 to 6.25?
It was, yeah.
And it's still cash flowed.
And we were told we were not the highest price paid, but we came.
Well, that's very interesting. That's very interesting you say that, because since you weren't the highest price paid, how did you land that deal?
Our sponsor. So fortunately, we had our sponsors on this deal that had done a transaction, had completed a transaction with the broker previously. And so the broker went to bat for us, saying that this is not the highest price, but they can get it closed.
Absolutely. And since, you know, being a proven closer, if you're just starting out, you know, you haven't closed anything. So you put a sponsor on your team who is a proven closer. Brokers like to see that first. And then number two, if they've closed with somebody in the past, that's certainly a huge plus. So, because the broker wants to get paid, they're not going to get paid unless this deal closes. So they're looking to, go with the guy that's going to be able to close it, or they know that's going to be able to close it. So that's interesting. Okay, so it got priced up another 625,000 and still cash flowed, and it had some value add. So, Christy, what were the value adds to this deal?
There was some exterior damage or renovations that need to be done to the deck. A lot of the units have not been upgraded, so they're still considered classic. So just bumping the rents. Right now, we're going to start bumping the rents slowly, and we're not doing too much of a bump rent, but enough to be able to add more to the value to the property. But do just some cosmetic things on the outside. There's a sewer issue that we're working on, but just upgrading the each unit.
How much are you going to be putting into the units? Did you price that out? Because I see here in the deal notes that built in 1984, which means, and it says all original interiors. Does that include interior appliances as well?
Most of them, yeah, I believe all of them were original. They've probably done some upgrades or replaced some of the ovens or refrigerators, but most of them all are still original.
So we are now 2021. And by the way, this deal just closed last month. So how much? So do you know how much per door? Anybody on the team know how much per door you were thinking you're going to upgrade, and how much will you be able to get in a rent increase by doing those improvements?
The CapEx, the total CapEx is a little over $600,000. Half
What's
of
that? 10,000 a door?
10,000 a door. Half of it's going to go to the exterior.
Okay.
The remedial work that needs to be done on the exterior, plus painting, plus signage, everything else we want to do to it. And the other half will go to the interior of the units. And right now we'll complete 50% of the units by the end of year 2. So that's
what type of a bump up on the rents will you get?
The bump up on the rent will be about $250.
Wow.
The property had never been really, for the last couple of owners, had not been really taken care of. So it had it really dropped to the bottom of the I'll call it the rent schedule for the area, especially for properties. So
built in 1984, is this what can you classify the area A, B, C, or D?
It's probably it's a CB area, but the other
so C plus B minus.
Yeah, the other apartment complexes are large. This is 60 units. These are townhomes. Each owner either has a garage or a carport.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So it's more of it's really a unique property, and that's one of the things that drew us to it, and that's why we can get the rents we're going to get. It's more family. It would be,
I just want to
on that type of thing.
I just want to frame the deal for everybody that's listening. So you're in a C plus B minus area, C plus B minus area, and it sounds to me that this particular property has actually dropped to a CC minus for a property type.
Correct.
So now you have the opportunity to take the C minus D property and reposition the property, and reposition the tenant base, and then now you're right back up at a B with $250 per door price increases. So what does that do to the value of the property? What's it going to be worth after 2 years?
Oh, you would do that to me. Can I do this?
Oh yeah, that's a key question.
Number in my head.
Mike, do you know the answer to that one?
Yeah, the answer is between 8 and 9 million. It will be there.
Yeah.
So one of the unique things on this property, Dave, that just to add to what Chip is saying, is that it's a very, very nice, it's a very good area. I mean, it's a working class area for sure, but it's very good, very treesy, woodsy. It's kind of the old money section of town of Fort Worth. And our property, built in 84, is all original interiors, as Christy said. But the two adjoining properties, one across the street on one side and down the street on the other, are late 60s builds, but they're being completely renovated. So they're really nice. I mean, they're sparkling nice. So our property is the newest property in the area, but the least updated. So, obviously it checks all those boxes as far as being able to gain from your value add and bringing, renovating those units, bringing in fresh appliances, flooring, and bringing the rents up to the neighborhood or above because of the unique townhome style property.
Does anybody on the team own properties in that area?
We have two, our Jig and their co-GPs on a couple of different properties in the Fort Worth area. She's also, and Sejal's also a realtor, local, residential, but she knows the area well.
So you guys have a beat in on the contractors and also the appliance suppliers and all that?
Yes, and also our sponsor has several properties in Texas as well.
Awesome.
And our property manager is phenomenal. She's been working the Texas area for over 30 years, and she between our sponsors who really know Texas and our property manager who really knows Texas, we feel very comfortable being in the Texas area and finding the contractors, et cetera.
And I understand that your management company came from your sponsor, as a referral from your sponsor?
Correct.
Excellent. Christy, you put down 100,000 hard for this deal. How did that make you feel? And whose money was it? Whose money was that 100,000?
It was nice because with the three couples, we split it up, 33, 33. And I think Chip and Jeannie pitched in that extra, 34. But yeah, at first it was a little nerve wracking because it was hard money. You're not getting it back. So it was definitely nerve wracking for all of us. We just knew that we had burn the boats, just move forward.
What type of pre-due diligence did you do in order to, even though you didn't feel comfortable putting the money down, you actually made the decision to put the money down? So what had you established prior to writing that check that made you at least feel comfortable that, the chance of this deal going through is good?
Well, definitely me knowing the area. My family still lives in the area. I have a sister, aunts and uncles that live in the area. Just checking in with them and just making sure that, the area is still a great area. There's not a lot of crime. Just doing the due diligence, looking up on crime reports, making sure, calling the economic development department, calling the police department, doing the basic research, the rent comps.
What about the interiors of the units? I mean, you must have. Did you do some sort of a pre-tour to get an idea of how much work needed to get done, and then who did you get that estimate from? How much work needs to get done?
Our property management company went in.
Yep.
One day we went through most of all the apartments. Some of the apartments they were locked, we couldn't get in, but then they were able to get in another date. But we were able to see any water damage, any sewage damage, anything that needed to be done and replaced. So we were able to see thoroughly what needed to be
prior to writing a check. Well, that's good. Did you have any conditions whatsoever? I'm going to switch over to Jeannie. Jeannie, did you have any conditions whatsoever on that check being written inside of the purchase and sale agreement?
The only thing, we removed all contingencies. The only contingency was if they, the only way we were going to get that $100,000 back is if they did something illegal. What's it called?
Yeah. Well, it was fraudulent.
Fraudulent. There's my word.
What about inability to produce or give a clear title?
Those two things. Yes. Those were the two things. So we did. Timing was kind of the essence here, in that we out-of-towner Californians flew in for our due diligence, and the sellers kept screwing around with the contract. So they kept saying, "We want our money now. Want our money now." We were actually in Fort Worth, and they still hadn't quit screwing around with the contract. So we were able to do our due diligence, our physical due diligence. As Christy said, we went in the units and took our property manager there. So we had that thing called early access. They didn't really want us to have early access. That kind of happened inadvertently because they kept screwing around with the contract.
Oh, good. All right. Well, that worked out. All right. So I have down here that there was a fear of possibly, because for who was this their first deal?
For all of us.
All of us.
Everybody, but not Mike. Mike, was this your first deal?
Well, first deal that I was in from the beginning. I'm general partners on a few other partners. I mean, a few other
Yeah.
properties.
Yeah. All right. So so what was it like? I'm talking now to Christy, Jeannie, and Chip. What was it like prior to going into this deal? And I guess I just exposed it, was the fact that, oh my gosh, we may never get into a deal. Could you explain that feeling? Any one of you three?
Yeah, it was, I mean, we really did think that we would not be able to get a deal anytime soon. And I can tell you, Jeannie and Chip worked really hard, like Jeannie was saying, going to Texas. What Jeannie didn't tell you, which I want to make sure I let everybody know what a strong person Jeannie is. So Jeannie and Chip did this tour. They're driving back and forth. Jeannie drove the whole time. Jeannie is in a wheelchair. She is a strong woman. When she came back from Texas, they both got COVID. She was in the hospital and still calling brokers, still on Zoom calls. She is a warrior like no other. So
that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow, Jeannie, what fortitude.
So I have no problem that we're going to be getting another deal soon.
Jeannie, do you have kids?
No.
Oh, I was going to say, I would not want to have been one of your kids. It's a difficult upbringing, I'm sure.
I know what that would have been like.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so now you did the deal and you had all this fear and thinking, there's a lot of people out there right now. It's like, oh, the market, I mean, you just closed this last month. Oh, the market is difficult. We just actually, somebody brought up at our last meeting, somebody put on Trustpilot, oh, the Trinity doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work in this market. And, nobody had responded to it. And the Trinity works in every market. It's just in markets like this, there's not as many deals out there that meet the Trinity. And if you try to change the Trinity, what you're doing is you're just adding a lot of risk onto your deal. So you're looking for deals, they're not coming out, and you're thinking, will we ever get a deal? And then you get one, and then you have that, oh crap, we got a deal, now, you go through that period. And then you build your team together, you go through the processes of the deal, you actually get it closed. In closing that first deal, what does it feel like?
It was sort of funny. Jeannie and I were in Texas for the closing, and we were at the property, and we're waiting for the final wire transfer from the lender. And that's all we needed to do to close. And first the title company said noon. And then they said, okay, 1 o'clock. Okay. And finally it was
4 o'clock Texas time.
4 o'clock Texas time. They said, okay, that's got to be it. That'll be the final cutoff. We're not going to be able to close if we don't do it. And at 3:37, the money came through. And it was like,
awesome.
It was
kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah.
It was like, where's the fireworks?
Yeah. We had planned to break out the champagne and and it was like, we're done. And now we're just beginning.
And you have that fear right up until the last minute that it's not going to close, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The lender could have changed his mind.
So now I know there's a lot of things that could happen, right up to the very end. So Christy, now it's like a month later. How do you feel now?
Oh, feel wonderful. Feel wonderful. It's so nice. I mean, I can't wait to start working on doing the renovations and seeing all the units change over. We were able to talk to some of the tenants that were in there. Some of them were just so happy that we were there and that we were going to be coming in and upgrading the units. So just knowing that we're going to be helping all of these renters, it's going to be such a great feeling when our renovations are done.
And not only that, what about the confidence that you now have because you've been through the process? What does that feel like?
Oh, definitely. I was very nervous because I felt limited on what my part would be. I work full time, so I'm doing this after work and in the early morning or after work and weekends. So my confidence level definitely has built up higher, knowing that I can take on more, I can do more. Now I know what I'm looking for when I have a task that I need to do. So my confidence level is definitely higher now that we've gone through this.
That's awesome. Jeannie, Chip, you want to add to that?
Well, when we first met Mike and Christy, Christy and I we were sitting in multifamily millions, and we were talking about how many units we wanted to ultimately have, and Christy and I kept going 2,000, we want 2,000, and Mike would look at us like, oh my God, what are you guys up to? And I think Christy now knows that that's totally possible.
Mhm.
The 2,000 is there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I-
So,
That's right. Yeah, because you push through one barrier
yeah.
and it just opens up, everything beyond that. Now, Mike, this is the first deal that you've been through from beginning to end, but you're partners in several other deals, right?
Yeah. Yes, I'm partner in
So-
about 6 different properties.
Yeah. So now, so it's after you get into your first deal, it's like the sky opens up, the clouds part, the sun shines down, and things start happening, right?
Absolutely. It was an amazing ride for sure. I mean, you go, just from the very beginning, obviously just getting the LOI accepted and going into, or getting into best and final, getting that accepted, then, there's that moment, right, where you're actually in contract and between the financing and, constantly redoing the underwriting to make it work, doing the fundraising, every one of it, you're stressed about every one of those elements. And each one of them, could be a deal killer. And then you finally get to that point where you do close on the property. And it's just like amazing. Yeah, it's an amazing feeling. It's really
Yes,
great.
it's awesome. Well, there's going to be many, many more to come.